This is going to be a depressing video, but it's something I want to get out. I started thinking about it and even kind of talking about it without the camera on, and then I was like, I should just record this. Yeah, I should record this. So I I was sitting here reminiscing about the past and trying to think of things from the past, like remember things. I was trying to bring back memories. Wow, that hurts my back. I think that's bad for me. I think that's very bad for me. I think I need to quit drinking it. Holy shit. I love how it tastes, but it makes me hurt. It's a diet soda, but whenever I drink it, my back hurts. My back starts hurting. Right back here in my back. Ooh, it starts hurting. I think it's my kidneys. Probably should stop drinking it or take breaks from it. I think the next thing I drink is going to be water, straight water. That's neither here nor there. Why do I go up? I just like to talk. So I talk about whatever's coming into my brain. So I tried to. I was watching a video and I started to reminiscent about my past. I started to think about the past. And I realized I'm having trouble remembering the 80s. The 1980s, which is when I was born. I was born in 80. I grew up in the 80s. I can remember being 3 years old. A lot of people are like, nobody can remember being 3 years old. I remember being 3 years old. But it's fuzzy. It's very fuzzy. It's hard to remember. I try to sit here and I try to think about the past. Relive moments and I can barely remember them. I try to feel them, and I used to could feel those memories like they were yesterday. But now it's hard to dig in and grasp the memories and be in the moment. You know how you can, well, maybe not everybody can do this, but some people can literally close their eyes and just relive the moment in their head to a T in their head and just remember everything that happened. I can't anymore. I can vaguely remember all the times we went to my Aunt Deborah's. She lived up before she lived in before she lives where she lives now. She lived on a road. I won't say the name of the road. Like that's private, but she lived in a different area than what she lives in now. And I loved going there. We didn't have running water where I lived, so we would take trips out there to see her where she lived and get a bath and everything and hang out with them. And I always loved just walking up and grabbing a controller and playing NES. They had an NES. I loved playing it. I loved playing Super Mario Brothers. I wasn't very good at it. I even remember my uncle taking over every now and then. My uncle Greg would take over a little every now and then when I was playing it. So I can remember some, but I used to could remember so much and so vividly. So vividly. What sparked this is I was thinking about the 90s, and I miss the 90s. I was watching a video here. It was talking about Sonic or Sega and how they started to go downhill with the Saturn and everything, and I was listening to the music and it was from a Saturn game, and I started thinking how the music or what the music was like in the 80s and then the 90s. There was a distinct sound, especially when it came to games that came from Japan and whatnot in the 90s. There was this distinct music. You don't hear it anymore. It just feels like music nowadays. They don't put as much effort into making good music. Making good music is making good art. And nobody knows how to make good art anymore. It feels like, Jesus Christ. I was looking at music the other day. It was, what what is her name? Ice Spice or whatever? I guess she wishes she was one of the Spice Girls. I don't know. She goes by Ice Spice, and her music was god awful. It was so terrible. Oh my god! And all I could do was sit here and go, God, can't we just at least go back to the '90s? I miss house and trance and all that, or is it trance or just house and electronic dance music from the '90s and the '80s, and even in the '80s, the music we had. Can we just go back, please? Can we go back? Can we go back to the early days of hip hop, please? Oh my God! But I was sitting here thinking about just here. Let me play this. It was music playing, and it was like, wow. It's important to remember that as the iconic mascot of one of the industry's biggest players, Sonic's reputation was irrevocably tied to Sega's. The only way to play a Sonic game was to buy a Sega console, and that meant that most Sonic fans were bound to be Sega fans as well. So why would you bench your star player? Well, this is only half the story. You hear that music? That I think that's like EDM. I think that's like electronic dance music or house. I don't know, but I loved all the. I actually do remember and love and miss all the 80s and 90s stuff, but the 90s stuff, but also video game. God, video game music was amazing. Look, anytime you are on YouTube, I'm just saying, look up the soundtrack on YouTube for Astal, Astal. And I think I've even played Astal before on this channel, right? I think I played it. Music is it's so much the time. And I miss it. I sink into it. I drown in it. And it feels good. It feels good. But then as I try to reminisce of the past and all the good things that happened, I sink. I slump into my chair. I start to cry. Because then the bad memories push their way into my mind. I start thinking about how I treated my mom growing up, how I acted. And it makes me want to cry a lot. I look back at how I was, how I still am. And it makes me want to cry, like hard. It makes me hard want to cry. It's so hard to want to reminisce and be nostalgic because I can't just think about the good stuff. The bad stuff floats to the surface of my memories and it grabs hold and it strangles me. It strangles me. I remember the first console we had was a Master System, a Sega Master System. This was like the late 80s, early 90s. Loved that console. This was not long after my mom left my father, which I love my mom, but I wish she never left him. He wasn't perfect, but he was my dad. He wasn't abusive. My father was never an abusive man. My dad was not abusive. He was a good man. He wasn't the smartest man. And he had his issues, but he wasn't a bad man. It's hard. But anyhow, my mom, after she left, my aunt, she realized because in the 80s, we would go back and forth because we didn't have running water growing up where I lived. There was no running water. We had no water. So to get baths, my mom, I don't know, I want to say it was once a week, but it might have been once every 2 weeks. I can't remember. She would take us out to my Aunt Deborah. And yeah, I would play NES. My aunt and my Uncle Greg, they realized I loved playing the Nintendo that they had. They wanted to get us something different. After my mom left my dad, I hate thinking about that. We were living in the apartment. They got me, well, I keep saying me, but it wasn't me. They got our house. They got our household and everything. They got They got us a Sega Master System. I loved that thing. I missed that thing. My friend, Billy Caldwell, at the time, friend of the time, he's not my friend anymore. That dude won't even talk to me. He hit himself on Facebook. Won't talk to me. He won't talk to me. That hurts. But at the time, he was my friend. He had a Master System too, and my first RPG was Phantasy Star, and we played a lot of that. But then somehow something got inside the Master System in the pins or whatever, or the metal part where that grabs the connectors on the cartridge that it slides between. Something got down in there and it needed cleaned out. I kept trying to clean it out. I ended up breaking the pins down in there, breaking it. Eventually we couldn't play it. Eventually it basically got trashed because I was a dumb little freaking idiot. I was a moron. I'm still a moron. I'm still a goddamn idiot. So then we got a Super Nintendo that my mom herself bought. But because we were poor, we started trading off, basically. We would sell games, buy other games, back and forth, because we couldn't just buy a game. We were so fucking poor. There was so much I did not get to experience. What we didn't buy, we rented. I was grateful for the rental market. Nintendo, I don't give a fuck how you felt about rentals. There's so much shit I would never have been able to play if not for the rental market. Your games were too goddamn expensive then, just like they're too goddamn expensive now. Most of the games that I own right now on my Switch are not the expensive games. I don't pay $60 or $70 fucking dollars. Most of the games I own on the Switch, on my Wii U, and even my Wii were mostly inexpensive digital titles. What I've got on my Switch, the majority of it is inexpensive digital titles. I have not bought a AAA game on my Switch. Most of the games that I bought or that were bought for me were not expensive. Nintendo are dumb. They don't offer enough at affordable prices, but the rental market was a godsend back then. So what little bit extra we got to enjoy was because of rentals. Super Adventure Island comes to mind. Some RPGs I got to play and everything. Wouldn't have gotten to play a lot of games otherwise. But we were constantly trading off. And when I say trading off, we even traded off consoles. We sold a Super Nintendo we had and some games we had. It was so stupid I shouldn't have done it. But we did. We sold it and got a Sega Genesis. And then eventually sold it and got another Super Nintendo. Back and forth. This was a thing that went on because of how fucking poor we were. None of you understand when I'm on here, and I know people get pissed off when I talk about these subjects. Fuck you. Okay, fuck you. This was my life. This is what I went through. This is how goddamn frustrating my life was growing up. This is also why I get frustrated that really old games, really fucking old games cost out the ass. Because at one point they didn't. At one point a used Super Nintendo game was at most around anywhere from $12 to $20 something dollars. And these were good games. It was not that fucking expensive to get a used game. But over time, more and more people decided to collect this shit. Drive up the price. So now it's so goddamn expensive to own these games, unless they're re-released on modern consoles. I'm grateful for that. But otherwise, I have to emulate. I have, and that's why I'm such a... and it's funny, before anybody else was a proponent for emulation, I was a proponent. And everybody else was against emulation. Oh, emulation, it's not the same as the actual hardware. Now we call them purists. At the time, they were just assholes who talked shit about emulation, which was the only way I could play a lot of stuff. That's why I don't think very fondly of these people. And now it's funny. All these same people that used to collect this fucking shit and talk shit about emulation are now praising emulation and even going as far to calling shit that isn't fucking emulation, emulation. FPGAs. FPGAs are not fucking emulation. Go fuck yourself. It is a that is a hill I will die. Is a hill or mountain? I can't remember. It's the hill I'm willing to die on. It's not fucking emulation. It's replication. It's hardware being told to pretend to be other hardware or to act like other hardware. That is different from fucking emulation. Emulation is software that is told to run other software on the hardware you have. That's not what FPGAs do. FPGAs are hardware that is told to configure itself to run like other hardware that exists or existed. That's the difference. And that's why it is a hill I will die on that FPGAs are not fucking emulation. I will die on that fucking hill. Fuck these people. Fuck them. God damn it. I'm dropping too many F-bombs. F these people. Yeah, it doesn't do your channel too good if you drop too many F-bombs. I fucking hate these people. So now these same people, and this video is all over the place, I'm sorry, but then these same people praise, they fucking praise emulation. I remember a time these same people didn't praise emulation. I remember a time these a-holes talked down about it. Emulation was such a bad thing back then. It was like a slur. And I made videos where I was like, fuck these people. And look where we are now, making another video where I say, fuck these people. The audacity, the fucking sheer fucking hubris of these motherfuckers nowadays. I hate them. I hate them. I hate these people so much. I hate them. But the point to where I'm trying to get to is there's a lot I've gotten to play recently, and I don't have nostalgia for these games because I never got to play them as a kid. So I love playing them. The point of this video, I think, was just talking about the past. Talking about everything, you know. Talking about what I got to enjoy. What I went through to get from one thing to another. But the 90s, I still love the 90s. I can still play stuff from the 90s, and I love the style and the music, the course in which history ran when it came to video games, parallel to my life. Parallel to my life. Remember playing, that's the fun part. Oh yeah. Yeah, now I remember. We got a PlayStation in the early 2000s. We moved out here in 98, I believe it was 98 or 19. No, it was 98 because we were living out here where I live now during Y2K, during that whole mess. I remember now. I moved out here in 1998 with my mom. Then 1999 came, and then 2000, everybody was freaking out. It was a nothing burger. We were fine. We're still fine. It's good. It's okay. We're good. We survived. Nothing. People thought bombs would go off and everything. Missiles would go off. Computers would go haywire. Nope. In fact, I can go in, what is it called? I can emulate an old PC and run Windows 98 and then put it on a date that's just before 2000 and let it go through. And it doesn't do anything. It's fine. Everything was fine. But no, early 2000s, we lived here. This house wasn't here yet, by the way. This house wasn't here, but I meant here as in the property out here in the sticks. There were younger kids around that time, around my age. We had at one point set up a tent right outside the mobile home that used to be sitting over. I'm pointing this way, but like outside my window of this house, there's a camper right over here. But that camper is, there used to be a mobile home. That mobile home, right outside, we'd have a tent set up. And we were literally outside in a tent with a CRT and PlayStation playing with a friend. Playing like I think it was WCW. Some kind of, we was wrestling games. You could make your own characters and stuff. It was on PS1. We played that. We'd play Resident Evil and all that stuff. I remember that more vividly the early 2000s. And at this point, I would argue, yeah, PS1, yeah, PS1 is now considered retro. PS1 is considered retro. Nintendo 64 is retro. And Saturn, of course, is retro at this point. No, I don't consider Dreamcast or GameCube or PS2 retro yet. They're not 30 years old yet. That's my litmus test. That's my bar. That's the measurement I have personally for me to consider something retro is 30 years. If it's 30 years or older, it's retro. Of course, the 8 and 16-bit eras, both of those are over. I'm 40 something. They're both 30 or more years old now. So, yeah, I consider them retro. I consider the PS1, the Sega Saturn, and N64 retro. I still don't consider GameCube, PS2, or the first Xbox. I don't consider them retro yet. Give them some few years and then I'll consider them retro. I just don't yet. And it's hard to consider a lot of things retro nowadays simply for the fact that the visuals still kind of hold up the same way. And then there's the fact that we don't have that leap. The leap in visuals are just not happening anymore. You know, they're just not. I mean, and I don't count the PS5 Pro because, oh, you made shit in the background sharper. That's stupid. It's stupid because that's shit that's off in the background. In real life, even with my glasses on, something that's way off in the distance is kind of like hard to make out. It's a bit blurred. It's in the background. It doesn't matter as much. So the idea that they do that. But no, we had these leaps, right? And I think that's part of the problem. It's hard to consider things retro that looked pretty good for their time. I don't even consider PS3 retro either. There's people that want to consider PS3 retro. Fuck you. Fuck you. It's not retro yet. Again, my whole bar that I've set is 30 years. If a console's 30 years or older, it's retro. That's the bar I've set. Keep in mind, I'm in my 40s. The NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, Master System, PS1, Sega Saturn, N64, all of that is retro. I'm not sorry. I cannot consider anything else later retro yet. And I wish people would all adapt that. I wish 30 years was the thing that people would adapt or adopt. 30 years. I wish we would do that. 30 years or older, to me, is retro. But looking back, those were good times, too. I can still go back and play PS1 games and have a really good time. Not so much N64. I didn't like the visuals and everything going on the N64. I think the reason I loved the PS1 so much because PS1 felt like an evolution of the Super Nintendo. It did. It felt like Super Nintendo 2.0. You know, that's what it felt like to me. Like the Nintendo 64 was kind of bleh. It was bleh. It wasn't that good to me. The Nintendo 64 was bleh. Even to this day, it's bleh to me. I thought the GameCube was better, but it's funny how Nintendo will take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. What do I mean? The N64, great piece of hardware, except they stuck with cartridges. That was their 1 step back. Their 1 step back was cartridges. With the GameCube, their 1 step back was using those small discs that couldn't hold a whole lot. That was their 1 step back. The Wii. The Wii they didn't try with power at all. The Wii is literally the GameCube with some tweaks and upgrades and adjustments. And I think we're fixing to see that with the Switch successor. I hate saying it, but I feel like that's what we're fixing to get. There's all the stuff that they've been talking about and the rumors and everything that have been going on, like DLSS and everything. I think that the Switch successor is not going to be very powerful at all. I think they're going to be relying on DLSS and whatnot. And I don't know. I'm expecting them to include some cool new features. I'm expecting them to have gimmicks because they love their gimmicks. They can't help themselves. Nintendo can't help themselves. I just hope it's practical gimmicks. I hope it's gimmicks that are practical that people will enjoy. Like, it has to be something practical that people enjoy. I hope that the Switch successor has some way of dual screen gaming. I think that should come back. I don't think that was an issue. And here's the thing I've tried to explain to people about I was watching RTU streams the other day, Richard Masucci, and I kept trying to, in the comment section, say some stuff about how the game, the Wii, the Switch was basically, or no, the Wii U was Nintendo's attempt at bringing the success of the DS to a home console. That's why it came with its own screen to where you would have the controller and have the screen on the TV. Your TV screen and the screen that came with the console. I think that's something Nintendo is going to try and replicate again. That's why there's the USB-C on the top of the console. I think that is going to be used for an extra screen you can buy for DS type gaming. If you're on the go, you can hook another screen on the top of it, which is probably why they're not going with OLED, which is probably why they're going with LCD, because they're going to have you be like, well, optionally, you can pay more money and get a new screen that will have this way of hooking it to the top. And also, I think they're going to have, and if they don't do this, I'd be surprised, but a way to wirelessly send communication for an extra screen, or even just mirroring an extra screen from the Switch to the dock. Because I think the dock's going to have more technology in it. I do get the feeling that's what they're going to do. I do. I might be wrong, but I think that's what they're going to do. You know what sucks? I'm going to end up predicting this correctly, and even though I predict it correctly, I'm not going to get oh God, I had that word on the tip of my tongue. I'm not going to get like notoriety for it or anything. I'm not going to get my comeuppance. That's not the word I'm looking for. Recognition. There we go. Recognition. I'm glad I remembered that word. I'm not going to get my recognition. I'm going to end up being completely right about that. I'm going to be the first one to call it, that the Switch successor will have dual screen capabilities. I'm going to be the first one to call it and to figure this stuff out and not get the word I just said. That slipped me again. That word slipped me again. Recognition. I'm not going to get my recognition. I never get my recognition. People don't come to my channel more. I can sit here and think of things or do research, actually put legwork into stuff, and I don't get recognition. I get fucked. And that's one of my biggest problems with YouTube and as a whole. And I've seen where people literally the day after I would do a video would then start talking about the same shit I just talked about in a video. So it tells me these motherfuckers are watching me. And they're going, hey, that's a great idea. He's probably right. And not saying a fucking word to me and then making their own video later and just repeating verbatim the shit I've already said. And keep in mind, these channels are already big channels. They're already big channels, and they're going to get bigger because they came and they looked at a little guy like me and then talked about it themselves. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. And it's so frustrating. And it's part of the reason why I just don't like doing YouTube anymore. It doesn't feel like I've been getting recognition for shit. You put hard work into stuff. You do your legwork. You do research. And then you get fucked. And your channel struggles to grow. That's what I hate. That is probably my biggest issue. I'm not sure what this video was. I was reminiscing. I was talking about the past. And part of it was just I wanted to talk about gaming. I wanted to avoid talking about the stuff that depresses me. I really screwed up with my mom growing up. I regret it every day. And every chance I get, I tell her I'm sorry. Every day. Because I never know when family is going to be. You never know when family is going to be gone. Appreciate them every day is what I'm trying to say. I have screwed up so much with her that every chance I get, I tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I ever did. I'm sorry for everything I ever put her through. I'm sorry. I try to tell my dad that too. I hope he hears me in heaven. Yes, I believe in heaven. I believe in an afterlife. Get over it. I believe that we go on. Okay? Somehow. I believe that we go on. And every day I tell my father that I'm sorry. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for how damn terrible I was. And this video is kind of all over the place. It's me reminiscing. It's me just talking about my life, but it's also me kind of comparing everything that we've gone through gaming wise, to what we have today and just how history may fare. I think it's going to hinge, whatever Nintendo does is going to hinge on price tag. I think the Switch successor, if they don't price it just right, is going to fail. That's the only thing that would make it fail at this point. Or they could make something with a lot of gimmicks that doesn't have any more power under the hood than the Switch. That would be a fail too. Nintendo is stingy and iffy and finicky about all of this. They just are. And I hope they do it right. I don't know what this video was, and I'm sorry. It was what I wanted to do. I kept sitting here wanting to just do a news video or something. I was like, I'm not enjoying this. I want to do what I want to do. This is something I felt like doing. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm 930 something right now. 35, I think. 935. I want to get to that 1,000. Please subscribe. It's just a click the bell icon and everything. It's not a big deal. Anyhow, thanks for watching.